So, I think it's pretty obvious that Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. Yeah, this episode was a lot of fun. How is everyone doing today, guys? My name is Tico's, and we are back with another wonderful episode of Amphibia. This is episode 47A, Spider-Sprig, which is a clear homage to Spider-Man, and yeah, just the second I heard about this episode, I was really excited to see what they were gonna do with this idea, and for the most part, I really had this episode's fun. I wouldn't call it one of my favorites in terms of, like, obviously deep character building, storytelling, anything. This is fun. This is just fun. And, I mean, really, that's pretty much what this episode is. I mean, yeah, you get a few things out of it in terms of, like, obviously being what really being a hero is and stuff like that, but I mean, you've Sprig dressing up as a superhero, and he's going up against the guy who uses the robotic arm of the killer robot and tries to take out Sprig. It gets as ridiculous as you would imagine. So let's get into this. So the whole thing starts with Sprig watching a movie with Mr. Boonchoy and Hop Hop and Polly. It's in this world, it is not Spider-Man, it is Tarantula, and not only that, it's not the boy gets bit by a spider, it's literally this tarantula thing, half human, half tarantula, I guess is the best way to sum this guy up, from this other planet and all that, and he's voiced by Roger Craig Smith, which I love. They have this battle, the movie is near the end, it's this battle with this, I think they said it was like a blowfish or a pufferfish or something like that, and he just is like, as Paulie pretty much sums it up, you got all the cliches, you got the tropes, you got all that, it's like, you will never be accepted by humanity, well, that's my fate, and then just, it's like, then it's like, he beats the bad guy, it's on a stormy night on top of a roof, then he crashes down to the streets, his mask falls off so the people see what he really is, and then you get the little girl who's like, I don't care what you look like, you're a hero. So obviously with all that, that's originally with that, I thought Sprig's identity was going to be revealed with that, like introducing that idea of like, oh, you may be from another planet, but we accept you for what you are. It's like, that's what I thought, but that's not what really happens. Because, obviously Sprig sees the movie, he gets really influenced by the movie, and he wants to really go out and be a hero, but of course it's more for just seeking attention in a way, because, a superhero gets praised by adoring fans. And yeah, so he goes out and he makes his own costume. Really, I actually did like the costume design. It's like he's got like the Amphibia like frog print, our logo on his chest. He's kind of got a scarf as his main mask, and then he's got the hat with the goggles, and he's even got like some nice footwear, I guess is the best way to sum it up. It's really cool. It's a nice little prototype costume design, I guess is the best way to sum it up. And he really is just being this neighborhood superhero, I think, because there are a few moments where I'm like, wait, is this outside the neighborhood? But he, unfortunately, isn't the only protector of the neighborhood. There is also this neighborhood supervisor, or pretty much like the neighborhood watch, I guess is the best way to sum up this guy, named Robert Otto. You know where that's going. Who is he's voiced by Brad Garrett, who, if anyone's seen anything Winnie the Pooh, he plays Eeyore, which is such a great thing. I love it. I love anytime I hear Brad Garrett in anything. It's such a you know you're in for a fun time. Actually, I'm trying to think. Yeah, movies in terms of Brad Garrett, shows in terms of Brad. Yeah, you're probably in for a fun time. So he's this neighborhood. He's this neighborhood watch guy who apparently takes his job very seriously. I mean, he gives kids he writes up kids for making lemonade stands, like saying you gotta have a permit. Although he tries to stop a bus by just rolling up in front of it with his roller skates and putting his hand out, like, stop! It's like, no! It's like it's a runaway bus and the brakes are shot, and Sprig, I'll admit, see, here the thing about this episode was I wasn't entirely sure how Sprig would do as a superhero. I'm like, maybe things will get to his head and he'll realize that it's a little bit more difficult. But he legit actually does help. He saves this. He stops a runaway bus from nearly crashing into other oncoming traffic, and he's actually saving lives. He even saves this girl whose name is Molly Jo, which is a clear reference to Mary Jane from Spider-Man. But Sprig, remember two things. One, you're a frog, she's a human. Two, you got your own girl back in Amphibia. I mean, how do you think Ivy would feel about this? I feel like she would go super jealous immediately and start fighting Molly Jo. But obviously with Sprig now all of a sudden being the hero, and he actually does, like, he helps people, like he does the classic get the cat out of the tree. He helps hold people across the street. He does actually help, but he also gets some fame with there was one of these they did like a quick, like Polly does a quick scroll online and sees Sprig on a talk show, which was weird. Even in the news, the news is praising his heroics, and again found that really surprising. I wasn't sure how big of a thing it was going to be for Sprig, but at the same time, I guess it makes sense, because if you're going to do an episode like this, especially in the final season, you gotta make it as big as it can be. So I'm glad Sprig, for what he's capable of doing, is at least doing it for good intentions, even if he is only doing it for attention as well. So, but of course for Otto, he gets really frustrated with Sprig kind of stealing his thunder, but at the same time, I'm like, you're a dude on roller skates who just does what? So I really didn't know how to feel about his side of the story, but at the same time, who cares? It's a guy, you need the villain. So he goes to the junkyard, which, if I saw the sign correctly, is his junkyard, because I think it did say Otto's junkyard. So interesting fact to know. And of course, this is the exact same junkyard that the planters and the Boon Choice fought the robots. So he finds the robotic arm and he uses it, and obviously it gives him strength. It even has it still has a laser, and he can even extend, it's got all that. So he goes back and he challenges Sprig to a fight, which is a pretty entertaining fight / chase. It starts off as a fight in the neighborhood, but then Sprig, it starts to flee. There's a few cool moments, like there's this one moment where Sprig is flying towards a truck, and he just lays himself out and just flies right through it. That was a really cool moment. But for the most part, it's a pretty solid fight. There's another cool shot where Sprig is running up the side of the building, but then Otto uses the arm to skate up the side of the building, and then they reach the top, and they do the comic book freeze frame when they're both kicking at each other, but then they both say ow because they kicked each other. But unfortunately for them, they realize rather quickly that due to their fighting, they're causing a lot of collateral damage, and it nearly gets Molly Jo hurt, who is the granddaughter of Otto. So Sprig saves her, and even Otto thanks Sprig for saving her, but then Molly points out that both of them cause a crap ton of damage, and even Otto's like, oh, that is a lot of property damage. It's a great line. But of course, this is where Sprig realizes that his mistake, and that he was, he's like, he should have been more focused on actually helping people instead of seeking attention, all of that. And so he and Otto make up, and they even fix the town, or fix the city, I guess, is the area that they destroyed, because there was a lot of collateral damage in the fight. Like, Otto, he literally uses the arm to pick up a bunch of cars and throws them at Sprig. I'm like, there are people in those cars, most likely. I mean, it is amazing how much damage he did with this arm, and so, yeah, it was crazy, but again, I don't think anyone got hurt. I don't think anyone got severely dead. I guess that's really the best way to sum it up. So, I think I can say it was a fun fight. They learned their lesson, and to top it off, they fixed the damages that they did. But as the police officer pointed out to Otto, he's still arrested. And for Sprig, Molly, there's a scene, where Molly Joe at the end is like, can you show me can you show me your identity? And Sprig's like, no, it'll give you nightmares. And by nightmares, I mean puke. And I'm like, interesting, Sprig, interesting. But, so Sprig, he uses his tongue to just go. I do find his superhero persona interesting. Like, to start, he calls himself Frogman, which makes sense because he's a frog, so he's got like frog-like abilities. But he uses his tongue like a web slinging. So it's like tongue slinging, I guess. I guess tongue. Basically, like in the birthday episode, where he's using his tongue to like navigate the balloon through the city, he basically uses his tongue to swing himself throughout the city, mainly on the street lights, because it's that's like a nice little woo 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 thing. So yeah, so all of that was fun, all of that was great, and like I said, it's a nice little fun superhero episode that, with the Spider-Man movie coming out, and with Spider-Man being such a popular character, you gotta imagine Sprig wanted to take some inspiration with that, with Tarantula. What's that, forget? But, yeah, like I said, this is a fun little episode, not one of the deepest or most, dramatic episodes of the series or darkest or any of that. It's just a fun, nice little superhero episode that I personally just loved. Because really, how else are you gonna do a superhero style episode in a show like this? Like, if it was something like, Owl House could probably pull off something on a bit of a scale, especially if Luce is able, especially if a witch is on Earth, like Ida. No, Ida wouldn't do a good superhero, which, maybe, I don't know. It's complicated. But, so with Amphibia, you got these episodes that are a lot of fun. There's fun, but there's also the main overarching story that has a lot of, darker, more serious elements, as we will find out in the next episode. Oh boy. So, enough talk. Let's just wrap up this video and get to the next one. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. And if you want to subscribe. You don't have to. I'm just saying. Thank you all for watching. And yeah, let's get to the next one.